today we're going to be talking about why we parent consciously, why we choose conscious parenting, mindful parenting, sometimes we call it conscious discipline, why we are choosing to parent intentionally on purpose. And I want to start by saying that a lot of adult behavior is kind of by default. We tend to use our unconscious mind to drive the bus. Like our unconscious mind is what is driving the bus. So we tend to default to the way we were parented, the things that our parents said to us when we were young, especially in stressful situations. So when our kids are acting in ways that we don't like, we tend to say things that we swore we'd never say to our kids because that's the default programming. We tend to get triggered by our kids' behavior and we're not necessarily aware of why we're yelling at them or why we're getting so frustrated. And usually it's not really about their behavior in the moment. It's usually about something else that's coming up for us from our own unconscious mind, from our own early parenting, the way that we were parented when we were small. So part of the purpose or the point of conscious parenting or parenting with more intention is that we don't want to pass those patterns and unconscious programming on to our own children, right? Like we want to choose our own behavior and we want to choose how we respond to our children and their behavior. We want to parent on purpose, right? Because so much of that early programming involves trauma for some of us. It involves unhealthy relational patterns. It involves maybe yelling or unkind responses to behavior that our parents didn't like. And if we don't shine a light on those things and make the unconscious conscious, then we will default to and repeat those patterns of behavior and of relational interaction with our own children. And we will pass along to them that wiring that we had when we were growing up. And so the reason that we want to shine a light on these things is to become aware of them first and foremost. And one of the skills of mindful parenting is awareness. One of the skills of mindfulness is awareness, just becoming aware of your thoughts, just becoming aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it. Just becoming aware of not only your thoughts, but how are you feeling in this moment. So when your kid does something you don't like, the first step always is to take a breath and check in with yourself. What's going on for me? What am I telling myself? What am I feeling inside? Why am I feeling that way? And you might discover as you get practiced at just the simple act of becoming more aware of your thoughts and of your emotional state, you might find that you are reacting to your kid's behavior because of the way that you were parented, because of your wiring, or because of something else going on, right? You might have stress at work and you find that when you're interacting with your kids, you're already feeling stressed. And so when they are like, mama, 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 and it's just like one more thing, right, over and over, that you snap at them, not because they're doing anything wrong, not even because their behavior is bothering you, but because you've got this underlying vibration of stress going on inside yourself, and the sound of their voice repetitively like that is just too much. And so it sends you over the edge. So the more you can bring awareness, just the simple act of bringing awareness to your thoughts and your emotional state is a huge first step in conscious parenting or mindful parenting. Bringing awareness to how you're showing up in your relationship with your child. And I would challenge you that it's often true, and parents often have the experience, that just the simple act of bringing awareness to the situation reduces the amount of yelling, reduces the amount of frustration, reduces the amount of stress, because you're able to catch it before you open your mouth and yell, because you have awareness. You've cultivated that awareness of, oh, when my child whines, I think this thought. Okay, just becoming aware of that thought. And then the next step is then you examine it. Okay, so I notice that when my child whines, I have this thought. And then you examine that thought. What does that mean? Why am I having that thought? Where does that come from? Why is whining so annoying to me? Why is whining so triggering for me? Why is it that? Why is that behavior the thing? So after awareness, you might find that reflection is the next right step, in the sense that you become aware and then you reflect on, what is the meaning of that? Where's that coming from? What happened to me when I was 2 or 3 or 5 that's similar to what's going on with my kid, that's causing me to react to me, not to them? Because often that's the case, right? Often our kids act in a way that remind us of ourselves, and we might not be conscious of it, because that first 7 years of life, we're not fully conscious. We don't have full memories necessarily. We don't, we're not fully in our bodies that first 7 years of life, but that's also when all of the imprinting happens. It's when all of the firsts happen, right? All the first time you experienced an emotion, it all happens in that first 7 years of life. So chances are pretty good that if your child's behavior, especially if it's something that happens over and over and over again, when they cry because they got hurt, or when they whine, or when they fight about a particular thing, if it's something that happens over and over and it triggers you the same way over and over, chances are pretty good it's something that you experienced as a child that's getting kind of stirred up, that you weren't even consciously aware of. So step 1 is awareness. Step 2 is reflecting on that. Where is that coming from? And step 3 is really choosing your behavior, right? So once you become aware of that, I noticed this pattern. I noticed that when she whines, I think this thought and I yell, or I think this thought and I say this to her, or I react in this way, right? Once you become aware and reflect on that, then you get to choose your behavior. Then you get to choose how you show up. You get to choose the next thing that you say. You get to choose to remind yourself that you are the adult now, and you're in the present moment, in this moment with your child. And the reason they're whining or crying or reacting the way they are is that they're having a hard time. They're not doing it on purpose to make you mad. They don't know that you were experiencing the same thing when you were 2 or 3 or 5. They are just being a child. They're in their feelings. They are developing and growing, and it's our job to be present for that. And in order to be present, we need to untangle our own past so that that's not holding us back, so that we can be fully present in the moment and show up for our kids and choose our behavior and choose our response to their behavior. So awareness, reflecting, and then being intentional, showing up on purpose and choosing our behavior. So this is sort of a 3-step process of how to begin conscious parenting. It's how to begin to show up and be present for your child in the moment. And it really does require some self-reflection. It requires you to be aware of your own experience and to be kind to yourself too, right? It's really important to bring compassion to this moment, because whatever you went through might have been really hard, and you might not have had time or opportunity to examine that. So having children calls up that stuff, right? It calls to the foreground these things. And this is an opportunity. Having children is an opportunity to untangle some of that. So I hope this was helpful. We will continue this conversation, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.